Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie and I am a knitter based in New York City, and this is my first knitting podcast episode, but my second YouTube video, and I'm very excited to talk to you about everything I have been knitting and finished in the past 6 or so weeks. Today I have 3 finished objects, 2 whips, a handful of acquisitions from a recent trip to Scandinavia, and then I think I'm gonna end by talking about 2 recipes. One is a recommendation and one is a request from you all. I thought I'd do a little bit more than just knit, so it might be fun to talk about other things I enjoy just for a few minutes at the end of the episode so you can get to know me a little bit better. So if that all sounds good to you, I will get started with my first finished object, which is a sweater. I have been working on this sweater. It's been on my needles, or it was on my needles, for basically a full year. I started it last July when I was in Vermont for a week or two. And I had gotten through the entire body, I want to say in 5 or 6 days, really quickly. It's all I did. I came back to the city, back to New York, completely forgot about, sorry, my laptop is down here with my notes and the lighting is changing. But so I got back to New York in August. I put the sweater in a whip pile. I just didn't want to work with 100% wool in August. So it was tucked away in the corner, and I had honestly completely forgotten about it for a while until this past July when I was going back up to Vermont again for about a week. I remembered I had it, and I decided to bring it up with me, and I finished it while I was up there. I finished the sleeves and the collar, and blocked it while I was up there. So technically it took me a year to finish, but really probably 3 weeks. It was a really, really quick knit for me because I think it's all I did for basically 3 weeks straight. And that is my Sonia sweater by PetiteKnit. Here she is. I knit mine in a size medium, and I think my recommended size for the sweater was a medium. My bust measurement is smack dab in the middle of the range that PetiteKnit gives. There goes my AC. I'm gonna turn that off. Okay. I think my bust measurement is, like I was saying, smack dab in the middle for the range that PetiteKnit gives for the size medium. So I do think I ended up with about the correct amount of positive ease. I think it's 11 3/4 inches is around what you're supposed to end up with. I think I'm at 11, maybe 10 3/4, which is totally fine for me. I knit mine in, I'm not going to pronounce this yarn correctly, so bear with me. Les Brebis du Beau Rivage, Frison de l'Est, which is a DK weight 100% East Frisian wool. And it's this really kind of rustic, lofty, squishy yarn. And I'll put a close up of what the yarn looks like knit close up, but it has kind of some dark grays, some warmer grays, kind of, it's not one solid color. And I think the colorway is called Jacob Natural, if I'm remembering correctly. And the yarn, it was a little lumpy and bumpy, so it made this really, I think the right word is just rustic, a very rustic fabric. It looks very just cozy, and it looks handmade, but handmade in a good way, and just comfy and cozy and lovely and snuggly and wonderful. It is a pretty itchy yarn. If you are someone who can't really tolerate itchiness, I would avoid this yarn. But I don't think this is a yarn many people will come across. I bought it in Quebec City at a yarn store called Cours de Mai in, I want to say it was December of 2022. It was December of 2022 because I bought it on the trip that I got engaged on. So it's kind of like my engagement yarn in a way. So this sweater will always be super sentimental to me for that reason. I didn't get engaged in this sweater, but I bought this yarn right after I got engaged. So that's just really, I guess, special for me. And I will always cherish this sweater because of that. But yes, if you do stumble across this yarn ever, it is, ooh, there goes my water. It is very rustic, pretty itchy. My husband has a very low wool itchiness tolerance. He cannot tolerate itchy wool, and he can't even like touch this sweater for more than like 2 seconds. So keep that in mind with this wool. But yeah, I really like this yarn. It made a slightly denser fabric than I was expecting, and it's not as drapey as the PetiteKnit sample images look or other knitters projects look. But again, I'm not like too bothered by that. I don't know if it's because this yarn is special to me, so I don't really care, or if I actually do genuinely like the fit. So the construction on this sweater is, I think, a pretty basic crew neck sweater. It's the first like basic crew neck sweater I've ever knit. You knit the front and back flat. You do some short rows in the back for shaping, do like those increases to get the neckline, join in the round, knit the body in the round to the end with some 1x1 rib. You pick up for the sleeves, you do some short rows in the sleeves, continue in the round, again end with 1x1 rib, and then you wrap up by picking up for the collar. So you pick up, stitches along the neckline for the collar, knit it in 1x1 rib, fold it over, and then bind it down as you cast it off. So it was I felt like easy construction. This was my first time doing German short rows, and I've knit other sweaters that call for them, but I've always been too intimidated, so I just would have skipped that part. But for this sweater, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. It has you doing German short rows 3 times, the back and each sleeve, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go for it and try it. And it was not as scary as I thought. There were some really helpful YouTube videos out there. And after doing this sweater, I kind of regret not doing this one or a similar sweater as my first sweater. I listened to a lot of advice online, which was to start with the novice sweater by PetiteKnit, and I did. And I never really liked the look of the novice sweater, like how you can see all the increases along the yoke. But I made it. I don't wear mine, and I don't wear it not because it's I don't think I did a bad job knitting it. I think my knitting was decent. And I really like the yarn I knit it in. It's this squishy, lofty brown wool. But I just don't like the yoke, how you can see the yoke increases. I don't know, it just wasn't, it's not my favorite end product, but the knitting process was fine for the novice sweater. So if you are a beginner knitter and you want to knit your first sweater, and you have access to YouTube or maybe some people in the real world in your real life who you can go to for help with a few of the techniques, I do think the Sonia sweater would be a good first project, especially if done in a lighter yarn, where you can kind of see what's going on. This gray color I think would be great. You can really see the stitches clearly when you're knitting, or a cream, or a baby blue, something like that. So yeah, that's my, I guess, 2 cents about beginner knitter sweater recommendations. So I would recommend this for a first or second sweater pattern. Don't be intimidated by the short rows. I learned a lot from this sweater. I did rip back a bunch when I was doing the short rows, and that was frustrating, but also a really good thing for me to learn because after I finished this sweater, I cast on, I guess not after I finished it, but while this sweater was in hibernation, I cast on another sweater, another PetiteKnit sweater that required German short rows, and that is the Melange Sweater Man. This is my Melange Sweater Man, I think man. This is a pretty big crew neck sweater. I knit this for my husband. His birthday was in, or is, in January, and I wanted this to be a birthday gift for him, so I cast it on in January. I think I got maybe halfway down the body in January, and then life just got really busy. And again, I kind of didn't forget about it, but it went into hibernation for a little bit. And then I picked it back up in May, mid-May, late May, and finished this finished the sleeves and the neck in June, and then finally woven most of the ends, not all, in July. So again, this was supposed to be a birthday gift in January for my husband. It was more of like a happy half birthday gift for him in June, but that's okay. I think I want to say I spent about 8 or 9 weeks total on it, even though it was on my needles for 7 months. So I'm happy with that. I'm not like, I don't know, I'm not really concerned with how long it takes me to knit something. I just like to know how long it takes me to knit something, just like for reference, for if I want to knit something similar, I have like a general idea. So yes, I knit the size large, and I don't remember what his chest measurement is, but his chest measurement was in the range for the size large, so that's what I knit for him. I used 2 yarns held together. I used Hobby Soft Alpaca in the color Charcoal, which is a 100% alpaca fingering weight yarn, and I held that with Taki Yarns Donegal Fine Tweed, also in the color Charcoal, which is a 70% wool, 30% goat mohair blend. And both of those yarns are like this dark gray color. I think they were basically like the same exact charcoal gray color, which was really nice. However, the Taki, as the name says, the Donegal Tweed, does have some tweedy bits in it. So it has some darker grays, some lighter grays, and a few white kind of specks throughout it, which is really pretty. And the fabric ended up, to me at least, having this kind of like night sky look. Like if you ever go camping and look up at the stars and you see like all of these different stars speckled throughout the sky, that's what it kind of reminds me of. So my husband Jake does have a little bit of a sensitivity to this. It's not as itchy as like my Sonia sweater might be for him, but it is a little itchy, so he wanted to be able to wear a long sleeve shirt under it. So the only modification I made to it is to the sleeves. I did not do as many like decreases in the arm as I was supposed to. I think I did 3 or 4 fewer than it called for. And I also, he wanted the cuffs to be ribbed, but like a short rib and not fitted at all. So I think I don't even know if, I don't think I went down a needle size at all for the rib, maybe a half a needle size, whereas I normally would go down like a full. But it's 1x1 rib on the cuff again, and I did the 1x1 ribbing, maybe it's on 1/2 inch total. I folded it over, and again, similar to the collar on the Sonia sweater and this one, like attached it as I cast off. So it's a very short rib, and it's not like a fitted tight sleeve. It's like loose and comfortable. As for the construction of this sweater, it is practically identical to the Sonia sweater to me. There are like 2 or 3 things that are different, but really it's like construction wise basically the same. It's flat, knit flat front and back with short rows for some shaping. You do like the increases for the neck. Knit the body straight down in the round, end with 1x1 rib, pick up for the sleeves, knit the sleeves round with some decreases, 1x1 rib at the end of the sleeves, and then the collar, again, pick up stitches, 1x1 rib, fold it over, and then bind it down as you cast off. Very, very, very similar construction. Obviously, like the numbers and yarn weight are different. And I think this is man, so like the measurements and proportions are a bit more, I think, for like a man's body shape than not. But other than that, I really couldn't tell you what the differences are. I really liked the pattern and the yarn. I really have nothing to complain about. We both Jake and I, really like the fit of this sweater. I like how it fits him. He likes how it fits him. It's like oversized, but not like too big. It just looks like really relaxed and comfortable. And then if I ever want to wear it, which I really try to not steal his sweaters, especially one I gifted to him. But if I do ever want to wear it, I think I like how it looks on me too. I like the fit of it on me as well. It's a very like cozy, oversized, like loungy fit without being too much fabric. So yeah, I think we're both really happy with it. He hasn't gotten to wear it a ton. He did wear it on our trip in Scandinavia, I want to say twice, and like brought it around with him as like an extra layer for when it got chillier at night. So he's really looking forward to wearing it in the fall. And I am also looking forward to that because I spent a lot of time and effort and put a lot of love into making it. So out of the two PetiteKnit sweaters that I made, I don't really have a recommendation as to which, if you wanted to make one of them, which I would go for between the Sonia sweater and this melange sweater. I do think I would probably choose to knit the melange sweater again over the Sonia sweater, just because it was a tad less complicated, as in like the sleeves didn't have short rows. So that's the only difference there. But otherwise, like if you hold them up side by side, which I'll do here, I don't know, they look really similar in terms of like the construction. I don't know is that like with all PetiteKnit crew neck sweaters, or are they all like a similar construction and just different yarn weight? Is that something that like people know and I'm oblivious to? I don't know. But yeah, all in all, happy with both of these. Happy I knit both of these. I don't think I will ever be buying another PetiteKnit crew neck sweater pattern because I have two and I think they're great, both of them, and they both work really well and are beautiful and easy. So yeah, those are my two PetiteKnit finished objects. I have one more finished object and one PetiteKnit whip, so it's not the last of PetiteKnit you'll be hearing about today, but that is it for my husband's melange sweater that I made for him. So my last finished object is not really totally finished, but I'm calling it finished for now because I'll explain in a minute, but it's finished for now. And that is the Sabai top by Suzanne Mueller or Paula Strict. Here it is, ta-da! And I knit mine in a size medium using Sandnes Garn Lena Line in Regatta Blue, which is, I think is 6044 is the number code. And that is, I think, a cotton, linen, and viscose blend, if I am remembering correctly. I won't go into construction, really. It's everyone and their mother has knit this. You've probably heard about this 400 times on 300 other knitting podcasts, so I'm not going to go too into depth on the pattern itself, but I will say it was a really easy pattern, very intuitive. I think one of the easiest, if not the easiest pattern I have ever knit. And I think if you want to knit like a summer top, this is a good choice in terms of the pattern being super straightforward. I did not make any modifications to the pattern, although I originally intended to. I will start with what I originally intended to do, which was I started with this yarn and I wanted to make, it's kind of similar to this in the front, like a boat neck top front with a scoop back, if you can see. And then I wanted to go into kind of like an A-line-ish dress with this. I think I bought like 10 balls of this yarn. I made this, I cast on a new ball of yarn. I joined a new ball of yarn. I was knitting, la, 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 la. And then I put it down and then I come back and all of a sudden, I don't know if you can see it on camera. I think you can. I noticed that the two yarns were different colors or were different shades. You can see this top one is a little lighter and dustier and the bottom there is a little more vibrant. I still had the yarn sleeves, same dye lot, same everything. So I don't really know what happened there. I was so frustrated by this. I was not happy. I ended up putting this down, walked away from it, but I still wanted to do something with the yarn and something easy where I wasn't like going on my own, like making up my own pattern. I don't know why. I could have just ripped that back, but I think I was just feeling frustrated. So I had the sabai top and I said, you know what? I'll make the sabai top. Everyone's doing it. It looks like very easy, straightforward, as I've said. If I cast it on, if I get another yarn ball that is a different shade, like whatever, I haven't just sat here and like done all this math and figuring out things for myself. It's just like basically two giant rectangles, so it's fine. So I cast it on and it ended up being, I think, all one color. There are some spots that look like they might be different, like right there, but I think it's all one color generally for the most part. And yeah, I cast it off, I tried it on, and I don't really love it on me. I don't know. I don't think it's the length. I think I'm happy with the length as it is. I don't think it's the boat neck. I like a boat neck on me. I like this color on me. So I feel like I should like this top on me in theory, but in reality, it's not my favorite. So I'm thinking I will put this away for now. I just don't want to work on it anymore. And I'll put it away with, I think I have like 5 or 6 more balls of this yarn. So maybe next spring I will take this out and continue knitting into the skirt, or to make a skirt, so to turn this into a dress, which is what I was originally planning on doing with my first little guy here. And hopefully I don't run into any issues where the yarn looks different and kind of has that line, if that makes sense. So we shall see. I think I'm just feeling a little frustrated with this yarn because of that. So I don't want to just like dive right in and start knitting like the skirt of this yet. And also by the time I finish the skirt, like I wouldn't be able to wear it. So I think it would be like a good April or May project to have for June next summer. So yeah, that's why it's a finished object for now. Not a finished object I will be wearing, but I'm not going to call it a whip because I'm not actively working on it or thinking about it, and it is cast off and functional. And what else do I have to say about this? Oh, I did want to mention also the yarn, this yarn, Lena Line by Sandnes Garn, felt really icky in my hands when I was knitting. I could only knit on it for like 30 minutes at a time before I had to put it down. my hands just started getting this like weird, I don't know, texture feeling that I really did not like. But I do really like this, the feeling of this top on my body. So knitting with it felt yucky, but it feels really nice and like soft and smooth on. It is heavier than I thought it was going to be. So that's something to keep in mind as well if you are going to knit with this yarn. I'm not totally sure if I would knit with it again. I think I have to see how this wears in like heat or warmer weather. So I won't know until next summer because, again, this is gonna go hang out somewhere far away and out of sight for a little while. So yeah, this will have a new home until the spring when I hopefully remember it and pull it out again and decide what to do with it, if I want to add a skirt or not. So that is my Sabai top by Suzanne Mueller or Paula Strict. So those are my 3 finished objects, and now I'm going to, I guess, move into my whips, which I only have 2 of today. And I'll start with the first one, which is my Ivy top by PetiteKnit. Here it is. So the Ivy top is a tank top. It's, I think, and also another tank top that a lot of people have knit this summer. And it kind of has this like rolled, slightly rolled high neck, mock neck, that I think is really cute. It's kind of hard to see it right now, but I'll try to insert pictures of it. But it is, yeah, it is knit top down, front and back, worked flat, and then you join in the round. And, well, it's worked in the round, and then you separate, and then you join in the round again, I think. Don't quote me on that. And it is so far a very easy knit. I am flying through this much faster than I was expecting, especially for this being a black yarn, which is, I think it's the recommended yarn for the pattern. It is Isager Trio 2, and I'm knitting mine in the color Ink. And that is a 50% linen, 30% cotton, and 20% lyocell blend yarn. It's my first time working with this yarn, and it does not give me the icky feeling in knitting with it that the Sadness Scarn Lean of the Sabai top did. It does feel a bit like more stiff or papery, if that makes sense. I don't know if that does make sense, but it has like kind of a papery texture to it, to me, but I don't mind it. It's been like really easy to work with, and I think it's making like somewhat even stitches, although like, my mistakes are pretty visible, but it's okay. It's a black yarn, so hopefully that'll hide a lot of them. So I cast this on, I think, on July 28th, and I left for Scandinavia on July 31st, and I wanted to bring this on the airplane. I wanted it to be like my airplane, train, car, ferry, beach knitting project, but I didn't want to bring my metal needles. I don't know why. I just feel like I've heard people say they've had like their metal needles confiscated or whatever, and I was just very nervous about it. I've never flown with knitting needles before, and we were only doing carry-ons, so I didn't want to risk anything. So I purchased bamboo tips and put those on, and I have to say I really dislike this yarn on bamboo tips. It is just not comfortable. It like grips the bamboo a bit more than I thought it would, and it grips the metal. I don't know if you can see, like, it's not the most like slidey on the metal needles, so it doesn't glide a ton off the metal needles. So it really did not glide or move on the bamboo tips. So I did not work on it on my trip as much as I was hoping to because of that. So I was hoping this project would be you know, basically finished by the time I returned. And that's not, I've been back for about a week and I still have a decent amount to go. I've got about like 3 or 4 inches under the armpit done. So I feel like I have like 6 or so, 7 or so inches left to do. But that's okay. No worries. I do think it'll be like a pretty quick knit from here on out, and I am hoping to have it off my needles within the next week or so because I do want to wear it. I have like a few friend events, social things in the coming few weeks, so I'd like to wear it to some of those. So hopefully I will be able to get it off my needles like really soon. That would be great. So that's my Ivy top by PetiteKnit. Making some progress on there, and hopefully in my next podcast you will see it as a finished object. So my last whip for the day is a gift for my cousin who just had a baby, and that is the Snuggle Bunny Lovey by Kayla Pins. It's not, I don't have too much so far. I'm not making a ton of progress on this. So this is what I've got. This is like a little, almost like a little blankie with, you kind of tie a knot in the top and like a little bunny look, like there's 2 bunny ears at the top. It just looks so cute for a little baby or a toddler to kind of carry around and have with them. And it's knit in the round, and you do some decreasing to make the shape of it. And it starts with some moss stitch at the bottom. I think it's moss stitch at the bottom, and then you go into stockinette the rest of the way. So I've just completed the moss stitch and I've started the stockinette. I haven't worked on it in a few days. I cast it on August 16th. And this was probably like 2 hours worth of work, maybe an hour and a half. I've done it like, I think not super quickly, but not like super slowly. I'm guessing this will probably take me maybe 8 to 10 more hours and then it'll be done. So I do think it'll be a relatively quick knit, like once I actually sit down and just work on it. I really don't have a ton to say on the pattern so far, other than that it's free on Ravelry, which is really nice. And it is really easy, I feel like, or really straightforward, and it makes sense. Sometimes free downloads on Ravelry aren't the most intuitive or clear when it comes to the instructions, but so far I found this one to make a lot of sense and haven't had any confusion or issues with it. So the yarn that I'm using is Cascade Ultra Pima Fine, which is a 100% Pima cotton in the color Veiled Rose, which is like a very nice, like soft babyish pink. It's showing up a little more peachy on the camera, but I think that's a bit more accurate. It is just a really nice, like soft baby girl pink color, which the baby is a baby girl. And yeah, I really am liking it so far. I'm holding it double for this project, and I do have a bunch of these. I don't know why I ordered like 10 of these. So I think I have a friend who's pregnant and also having a girl this fall. So if this pattern goes well and I really like the finished product, then maybe I will knit this again for my friend who's giving birth in September. But I'm not totally sure yet. I'll see how this one goes. And I did have a question for you all. So this is my first like out of home gift. So the first item I'm knitting and gifting to someone who I do not live with. And I am not sure how I want to give care instructions. It's a cotton yarn, and I think it says it can be thrown in the wash in the dryer. So it's not super delicate, but obviously like there's not a tag on it that says how you care for it. So I'm just wondering how you let people know how to take care of your gifted hand knits. Do you just tell them? Do you text them? Do you like write it on a little card and give it to them with the item so they can keep that wherever they they want with it, whether that's in like their laundry room or with like their cleaning supplies. I just say like toss it in with everything else. Like, how do you go about that? I don't know. I'm going back and forth about how I want to let my cousin know how to take care of this. Even though it is like just a Pima cotton yarn. So I think it's pretty much can just like go in the wash with everything else, and hopefully it'll be okay. So yeah, if you have any tips or advice or ideas on how to give care instructions, I would love to hear them. And I think that's everything for my whips. That's my little Snuggle Bunny Lovey. And I don't have any other whips today. Those are the only two. I am really hoping to get one of these off the needle soon. Hopefully the Ivy top, ASAP, so I can cast on my toffee sweater that I talked about in my August and September, mainly September, knitting plans video I posted a few days ago. But yeah, hopefully these will be off the needles very soon. That's it for knitting. So I am going to talk about a few acquisitions that I purchased on my recent trip. I do not expect this to be like a normal segment, I guess, in my knitting podcast videos. I don't really buy yarn unless it's for a specific project or as a souvenir, which all of the yarn I purchased and we'll talk about today is a souvenir purchase. So yeah, it just won't be like a common segment in my podcasts. So feel free to end the video here or skip if you're not interested in hearing about what I purchased on my trip. But if you are, I was in Scandinavia. I was in Copenhagen, Gotland, and Stockholm for about 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of August. And I went to a bunch of yarn stores in Copenhagen and Stockholm. I only went to one in Gotland, but I'm only going to be talking about the yarn stores that I purchased yarn from today. I think Copenhagen especially has a ton of yarn stores that it was just overwhelming, and I think I would have gone into debt if I bought yarn at all of them, and this video would probably be about 6 hours long. So I will only be talking about those that I purchased yarn from. But the first yarn store I purchased yarn from was called Brun Strick in the Frederiksberg neighborhood area. And this area had a ton of yarn stores, like a ton, but I ended up only buying yarn at this one. And I think I bought 5 little balls. These are my 5 balls of yarn that I bought at Brun Streak. The first yarn I bought is Isager sock yarn in this like nice kind of purpley gray, steely, slatey navy color. It is color number 47, and it is a 40% easy wash alpaca, 40% easy wash merino, and 20% recycled nylon yarn. And I bought this, Jake picked this yarn out because he wants some socks for Christmas. So he will be getting some handmade socks in this yarn. I've never knit socks before, so I'm excited to do that. And I'm really happy he will have a knitted item from, like, as like a souvenir from our trip, if that makes sense. Like, I bought this yarn on our trip, so then when he wears these socks, hopefully he'll like think about our trip, and that'll be really nice for him. So this was my first purchase at Brun Streak. I was really happy with this. I'm not going to say how much everything cost because it was in Danish kroner, and then translating to US dollars, like, I don't know, you can Google it. But Isager sock yarn was my first purchase. My second purchase at Brun Streak was this Lana Gatto feeling, which is this really lovely, what is it? 70% extra fine merino, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere yarn. And it's this really lovely kind of burnt ochre, orangey, brown, reddy, burgundy colored yarn. The color number is 19034. If it has like a word name, I'll put that up here. But it's, yeah, just, I thought it was a really nice, lovely little ball of yarn. And I think I want to make a mini scarf with it. I like this color on me. I don't know, I think it looks nice. So I'd like to make a mini scarf for myself with this one. I think that'll be like a Sunday football knitting project, kind of mindless knit. I'm not sure what pattern I'd like to make with it, but yeah. So that's the second, or I guess third ball of yarn, but second yarn from Brune Streak. And then the last two balls I purchased were from a brand I'd never heard before called Chaos Yarn, which I think is a Danish yarn brand. One is Luxury Soft Merino, which is 100% merino wool in the color Majestic. Yeah, in the color Majestic, 1039. And it's this nice kind of cherry red color. Really, really pretty. And the other is Organic Soft Merino in this, I don't know how I would describe this color. Kind of like, it reminds me of the Atlantic Ocean, like the color of the Atlantic Ocean. It's kind of blue, it's kind of green, it's kind of gray. It just feels like a good like wintry color. And the name of this color is Mysterious, and the number is 1088. I think Mysterious is a really good name for this yarn because the color is a little mysterious. Like I'm not totally sure how to describe it. And I think my plan for both of these is also to knit little scarves, one for my sister and one for my mom to give at the holidays for them. So these are from Chaos, again, I think a Danish yarn brand, and they are the last two balls that I purchased at Brune Streak in Copenhagen. So the second store I went to in Copenhagen, I think was my favorite yarn store out of all of the yarn stores I went to on this trip. It was just my ideal store. It was a yarn store, and then they also had a little cafe coffee shop with some like baked goods and tables you could sit at and enjoy your coffee and knit, and it was just such a pleasant, lovely little shop. And they also had this thing that I'd never seen before that I thought was cool. It was this jar with a bunch of scrap yarn in it. It looked like maybe like 5 to 20 gram little balls of scrap yarn that you could buy. And I thought that was so cute. Like you could just pick out a handful of scrap yarn and make like a scrappy project, or if you wanted to make like a small scarf or a scrunchie or something and don't have scrap yarn, you could buy that and use it for those projects. I don't know, I just thought that was really cute and creative, and it was, I don't remember exactly how much they were. I want to say it was like 10 Danish kroner or 100 Danish kroners for one little scrap. I don't remember, so I don't know. I don't know, but it was cute and I think like really cheap and a fun idea that I really liked. So the yarn that I bought from there, ooh, this one got all messed up, is from Lana Grossa, and it is called Torto, and it is this really pretty kind of like mixed yarn. It's twisted, it's wrapped, it's got blues and greens and yellow and gold and cream in it, and it is just a really, really fun, pretty yarn. It is 90% cotton and 10% polyamide, and I don't know, I saw it and I fell in love. I've never seen this yarn before in the States. Lana Grossa isn't a yarn brand that I see too often in yarn stores here, so I was excited to pick this up. I'd never heard of this type, Torto, before, and I've never seen yarn like this before. This yarn specifically reminds me of a mermaid, which I thought was really fun, and I felt like I had to buy it because in Copenhagen is where Hans Christian Andersen, I guess, lived, and they have the Little Mermaid statue, so it felt in a way kind of Copenhagen-y, even though it looks kind of tropical. So I bought 2 little balls of that. One got like squished and kind of like, I don't know, all weird in my suitcase. But yeah, I bought 2 balls of it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. I'm thinking maybe like a open kind of meshy poncho or some sort of like summery, slightly open or looser gauge tank top. I don't have a ton of it, so I think I need to look through some patterns and think, but I won't be casting anything on with this until like next spring or summer, so I do have some time. But I'm really happy with this purchase, and I would highly recommend visiting Woolstock if you're in Copenhagen. It was just the cutest. And the last store I visited, or I purchased yarn from in Copenhagen, was called Ulden, U-L-D-E-N. And that was this tiny little shop. It was really cozy, and it was yarn everywhere, like a yarn explosion. And the woman working there was so helpful and friendly. I had a really great little chat with her. And the yarn I ended up picking up from this store is Gepard's Cashmere Classic, 100% pure cashmere. I bought 2 of them. I'll just show one. And this is a 100% pure cashmere yarn. It is in this really lovely, like soft brown color. It's like a light brown, and it's just really, really pretty. I've never knit with 100% cashmere before, so I am really excited to do that. I, again, think I'll probably end up making a little scarf with this. Maybe not like a mini like neckerchief scarf, but maybe more of like a little, I saw this like double knit kind of rectangle scarf where it has like the slits to stick the one end in. So if this is enough yarn to do that, I think I'll probably try to make that with this. And the color that this is in is 146. So I am really happy and really excited about this yarn. This is probably going to be my first cast on from all of the yarn that I bought on this trip, because I don't know, I'd like to have a nice little cashmere something or other for the winter. So this will probably be like a late October cast on for me. So very excited about that. My Gepard yarn cashmere classic. Those are the only 3 stores I purchased yarn from in Copenhagen. And after Copenhagen, we made our way into Sweden, up along the coast, and went over to Gotland, which is a Swedish island in the Baltic Sea. And we stayed in a little village called Lugarn, I think is how you say it. Lugarn? Ooh, I don't know. I'll put it there. But it was this really, really cute little village right on the beach. And there was a lot of like nature walks and things to do nearby. It was just a really nice few days. I would recommend visiting Gotland if you ever find yourself in Sweden and you want to do something a little different. We took the car ferry to and from mainland Sweden to Gotland, which was a really cool experience. I have taken ferries before, but I've never taken a car onto a ferry. So it was fun to like drive the car on, and then you park it and you go upstairs to the seats, and they had different little like restaurants and shops and places to get snacks. And you had assigned seating upstairs, which was just really nice and fun. It was pretty cool. I don't know, I would really recommend it. It was a fun 3-hour journey, and something a little different. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about my car ferry experience. I'm here to tell you about the yarn I got. So on Gotland, I only went to one yarn shop, and it was called Bol Oleson. And the yarn I got, I think this is what it's called. I think it's called Boat Lamgard, Gotland Sole. I don't know. This is the label. And it is a DK weight yarn from some Gotland sheep. And it's a really nice like gray color. It's a natural color. I think it's undyed. I'm not sure what the name of this color is. They only had 3 colors, like a light, a medium, and a dark, and this is the medium color. And I bought 3 of them. It's a pretty rustic yarn. It's, yeah, pretty itchy. If you're sensitive to wool, I think it would be a pretty itchy yarn. Maybe about the same itchiness as the yarn I used for my Sonia sweater. But yeah, this is my Gotland yarn. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with it. I think I might hold it with a mohair and make like a little wrap or shawl with it. But I haven't really thought too far about it. I'm just excited to have it. So this is my lovely Gotland sheep yarn from Bowl Olesen. And the shop was actually really cute. You pull in and it looks like you're in someone's like driveway with just like stuff in a garage. Like I was like, there is no way this is the yarn store. But we parked, we got out of the car. Oh my gosh, something loud. We parked, we got out of the car, and we went like around the side, this like building on the side, and peeked in, and it was a little shop. They had some fresh foods you could buy, a bunch of yarn. You could buy some finished knitted projects. You could buy knitting kits, and then this yarn. And there was just like, I don't know, it's just an adorable little store. And I don't know, I'd recommend visiting if you find yourself in Gotland near Lugarn. But there are a ton of other yarn stores or sheepy places on Gotland. So I think you could definitely find some yarn wherever you are on that island. So yes, that's my little Gotland, Swedish Gotland wool. We were in Gotland for about 4 days, and after Gotland we went to Stockholm. So we took the car ferry back and drove into Stockholm and stayed in Stockholm for a few days. And I only purchased yarn at one store there. My suitcase was getting a little full. I didn't have a ton of space left, but I did want to buy yarn in each place we were going. So I allowed myself one skein, one hank, whatever this is called, from a yarn store called Makerai 14, I think. And that was in Gamlestan, which is like the old city, the old part of Stockholm, which is really cute. Very touristy little area. And the yarn store was small, but it was sweet. And they had a decent amount of brands I'd never heard of. But I saw this, Gotland, is also from Gotland. It's Gotland wool, called Faro by the brand Knit for, the number 4, and then U, the letter U, so Knit for You. And Faro are these islands kind of at the northern end of Gotland. And I think that's where, I'm gonna say it wrong, Ingmar Bergman might have lived or had a house. And we watched this movie a few years ago called Bergman Island, about his house, I guess, and life there, kind of. I'd recommend it. It was a good movie. It was my introduction to Gotland. And I really wanted to visit those islands when we were there, but it was about an hour 20 drive from where we were staying, and it ended up not being feasible at all for us, given like the things we had planned and what we were doing while we were there. So this was my next best option, which was to buy yarn made with 70% Gotland wool from Faro, and 30% Falkland Merino. And this is in the color 5. And it's this really pretty, it's not picking up the color, but it's this really pretty purpley brown. It's almost like an eggplanty brown. I don't know, it's just really, really nice. And this yarn is slightly softer than my other Gotland yarn, but still rustic, still a little itchy. And I'm just really, really happy with it, really pleased with it. I'm not sure what I want to make with it. I like the idea of making one of the pressed flowers patterns with this yarn and maybe like a cream color as something nice to have in the fall, but also in the spring. So yeah, I'm not totally sure what I want to do with it, but again, very happy with it and this purchase. Overall, I'm just like very happy with everything I got on that trip. I think I got a lot of like new to me yarns I hadn't seen before, some slightly more local yarn, and I'm just excited to make things with yarn that I bought on the trip so that whenever I wear it, I'll always think of that. And I think it'll be like lovely to kind of have those memories intertwined and woven into some of my knitting projects, like I do with my Sonia sweater. I'm a very sentimental person, so I like the idea of like having memories attached to a knit item, whether it is because of the yarn or where I was when I was knitting it. I think that's like really meaningful for me. So that is everything in terms of knitting and yarny things. I do quickly want to mention some recipe and cooking related things, as I really enjoy cooking and trying new recipes. So if that doesn't interest you, you can end here. Thank you so much for watching. But if that does interest you, this is probably only going to be about 2 or 3 minutes, so really quickly. The first recipe I wanted to talk about is this marinated zucchini recipe from New York Times Cooking. It is so delicious. When we were in Copenhagen, we had a breakfast at a restaurant, and it was just scrambled eggs, some toast, and this like marinated zucchini. And it was delicious. It was such a perfect breakfast for me that when I got back, I said, I want to recreate this every single day. And out of the like 6 or 7 days I've been back, I think I had it 4 days. 4 of those 6 or 7 days for breakfast, which was this marinated zucchini recipe with eggs and toast. And I can't recommend it enough. It is so simple. I think you do need the New York Times subscription to access this recipe, but I think there might be other like similar recipes online. If you just Google like lemon marinated zucchini, I think similar recipes might show up. But if you have access to New York Times Cooking, I would highly, highly recommend this one. It's very easy, low effort, high reward, I think. So I wanted to recommend that because I've been loving it. And then the second thing I wanted to ask or talk about is a Danish pastry called a Brunsviger. We had kind of a fancy Brunsviger for one night, for dessert one night at a restaurant in Copenhagen, and we loved it so much that the next day we went searching for it at a bakery, and we found it at a bakery called Sine Gas in Copenhagen, and it was so delicious. It was like this focaccia-y type of cakey bread with like a syrupy brown sugar gooey topping kind of in all of like the nooks and crannies and crevices. And it's just amazing. It's incredible. It was so lovely to have with coffee in the morning or like an afternoon treat. And I would really like to try to make some. I tried one recipe I found online, and it turned out way more like dense and dry than I was hoping. So my idea was to make like a sweet focaccia bread, and then just kind of continue following the recipe from there. So like putting the brown sugary syrup topping on top and baking it like that. So I'm wondering if any of you have a like sweet focaccia bread recipe that you like. Can I even like make a focaccia bread with sugar and things in it to make it a little sweeter? If you do, I would love to know if you've ever made a sweet focaccia bread type of thing. How did it go? Yeah, any tips or tricks or recipes or advice would be welcome on that front. So that concludes my very first YouTube knitting podcast. So thank you so much for watching. I think my next one will be in about 2 weeks. I'm hoping to be on a 2-week schedule for posting knitting podcasts. So until then, I hope you have a lovely few weeks. Bye.